Hi, and welcome to the show. You are on the Cheap Mama Life, and I am your host, Brenda Kilhofer, your Cheap Mama. Today, I am super excited to introduce you to somebody that I met just a couple weeks ago. His name is Caleb Wright, and he is president, CEO, founder of Orozona Oils. So, as you all know, as my listeners know, I don't think anything is accidental. And I essentially stumbled across his website in an email that I don't frequently look at. And I dug in. I started reading and I reached out, and Caleb contacted me right away. And we had an incredible conversation. And I'm sure that many of you have some of the same questions I have when it comes to CBD. We hear so many different things in general about hemp products, about CBD, about cannabis, whatever, you name it. And all of the different things that it could support, all of the things that we should try it for. And then, of course, it's still attached to marijuana, right? For most of us, that's the belief. It's attached. So I dug in and asked Caleb so many questions, and he was such a wealth of information and knowledge that I felt that it was only right to invite him to be on the show, and he graciously accepted. So Caleb, why don't you just share a little bit about your background in the industry, and we'll kind of take it from there and start to dive into some of the different questions that people might have.
Sure, yeah. So hemp and all things related to of interest to me for, about 25 years, I would say. I read a book that really it opened my eyes as to what hemp was capable of. And, aside from marijuana, and we'll talk about the difference here soon, but just looking at hemp in particular, I was intrigued at how many things hemp is good for, aside from just health and wellness and the myriad of health and wellness benefits that you have just in that facet, but everything from rope and textiles to oils to biofuel and plastic, all of these things can be made out of hemp, and that's grown out of the ground, and that's just so fascinating to me. It's pretty cool. And so that really kind of got me interested in looking at well, what else does this plant do and provide? And that led me down the road of CBD. And learning that this was one of the dominant constituents in the hemp plant. And it was responsible for things like reducing inflammation and anxiety. Apparently, there's not a whole lot of research has been done, but there has been a lot more recently. Starting back in the 70s, we really started kind of unpacking the hemp plant and discovering the potential rediscovering, really, because it's been a part of man's experience for thousands of years. It's only recently kind of been put on the back burner in terms of usage in societies. But even as recent as World War II, we were making rope and things like this. And there was a national push to grow hemp in your farms, on your farms. And incentive to grow hemp for the war effort. That's kind of, again, an interesting thing to look back and realize that this really isn't new. There is a resurgence of interest in it, and there's, I guess, a focus on the health and wellness side of things as CBD has been put in the spotlight. But one thing to understand too is that it's not just CBD. There are a multitude of other constituents present in that plant. CBD is just in the spotlight at the moment, but there's CBN, CBC, CBG, and these all are particular compounds that work together to create something really special. We call that full spectrum when we're talking hemp extract or CBD oils. Full spectrum would refer to this idea that there's as many constituents present in that oil that you consume as possible. You imagine this is a plant growing out of the ground, rich with oils and lipids and vitamins and fatty acids, and CBD is one of those many things, and THC, the cannabis side, is another one of those things. In hemp, it shows up in very trace amounts, and as long as it's under 0.3%, then the federal standard says, okay, that's hemp. And if it's over 3%, that's not okay. That requires special licensing and there's state regulations and blah, blah, blah. That's cannabis. But it's that 0.3% that's that kind of delineation of, are we talking hemp or are we talking cannabis? And so once that's cleared up and we understand, okay, so we're under that 0.3%, we're talking hemp. Now there's a variety of other constituents that are present. And like I've been naming, and aside from just the lipids and the fatty acids, there's things like terpenes, which are flavor profiles or aroma profiles. And those have actually been discovered to provide therapeutic effects by themselves. And the industry is even isolating those. So they have very specific terpenes that you can, if you want to play Frankenstein, you can add all kinds of different, ingredients that were present in the plant that have been isolated into individual constituents that then you determine how they go back together. And that's one of the things the industry is doing. I call it Frankenhemp. We believe in honoring the wisdom of nature. We feel like nature probably had a pretty good program when it came to this plant, as well as the other plants that we enjoy naturally in this world. And so, although there are modifications, like anything else, they alter the genes in a certain, it's not genetically modified, but it is genetic mutations of a certain sense, where you bring different strains of plants together that represent different desired effects, and then you bring those together, like you would see in, done with tomatoes or watermelons. And so we see this in the hemp industry, especially when we're looking at the medicinal or the therapeutic side of hemp, where we're trying to, or the growers are trying to have genetics that demonstrate high CBD levels and low THC levels. And the hemp plant typically grows real spindly and long and stemmy, and the cannabis plants can be bushy and have a lot of flowers and vegetative material on it. And so they are trying to kind of blend those two, because the CBD concentration is really in the flowers and in the aerial parts of the plant. Let's contrast that real quick with hemp seed oil, which you find in your grocery store, and you've been able to find that for a long time. It's not part of the CBD trend. Hemp seed oil is using hemp seeds. So there's the lack of CBD present in that, because it's not using the aerial plants or parts of the plant. The flowers, the leaves, and even the stems contain trace amounts of these constituents, but really it's in the flowers. So the push is to try to develop genetics that will demonstrate like cannabis, but with low THC. So you get this high CBD profile instead. So that's what we've been utilizing. Ours is actually German grown and processed. They've been they've been developing hemp strains for the last 3 decades. So that's leaps and bounds ahead of our domestic programs, which I have a huge respect for. And I'm so glad we're heading in that direction domestically. But we have a ways to go. There's been bumps in the road. Everything from crop failures to interstate transportation issues, and the feds getting involved, and who's trying to sort out what's really going on here. And so there's been some bumps in the road. The Europeans have been doing this for a lot longer and have smoothed out some of those bumps, which is nice, because that means we're able to get a really rich CBD hemp extract that we can then utilize as a raw ingredient in our products. And then, of course, the benefit of that is you're getting all of these nutrients that are in that plant. We'll contrast that real quick with a couple of the other types of CBD that we see in the market, which are readily available in many forms. And so this is probably most people's experience with CBD. And this also is probably most people's reason why they say CBD didn't work for me. And that is, we've taken this plant, like this Christmas tree behind me and the one behind you, it's this living thing, and we've reduced it down to a single element, CBD. That's all that's left. It's a white water-soluble powder that you can mix with anything. It doesn't taste like anything. And it's really easy to use as a raw ingredient. And so we're seeing this pop up all over the place. Your 7-Elevens and Circle K's, even big companies that, we don't need to name, but some of the biggest companies that produce food and beverages are getting involved in this space because CBD isolate is just brilliantly easy to utilize,
Right.
And they get to then market their products as including CBD. Well, the problem is, I've discovered after my 7 years of being in the CBD health and wellness space that unless you're dealing with a full spectrum hemp extract oil blend, I'll emphasize oil, you're going to be just kind of washing over your cells with CBD, but you're not going to be absorbing the CBD like you would an oil. And that is because our bodies are designed to receive the oil, the lipids that are in that plant. CBD is a lipid, it's an oil. And so it's wanting to lodge in the lipids of our body. That's where it finds its home. So that's all of the organs of the body, the brain, wherever there's fat concentrations is where the CBD will lodge in the body. And so if you realize that that's really where the efficacy is, then why would you use a water-soluble product and expect to see lasting results?
Right.
You wouldn't. You'll see maybe a quick flash in the pan type of result, but not the longevity that we're striving for in health and wellness and trying to help people, really turn the corner with their issues. So that's one of the main reasons people don't have a good experience with CBD is they had it in some form that was not as bioavailable, and the other reason is because they had it in a strength that wasn't strong enough. And that's another common thing we see.
Right.
Is we'll have, let's say we're discussing apples to apples in terms of full spectrum oils. And
okay.
Here's the bottle of my 500 milligram. So 500 milligrams on there of hemp, full spectrum hemp extract. Now we'll talk about, we introduced, company XYZ's 500 milligram bottle. It's 1 ounce, same thing as mine. One will be more effective than the other for one reason. It's more strong. So no, well, they're both 500 milligrams. Well, how can that be? Well, think of the gas pump.
Okay.
You have choices of octane there.
I see.
It's all gasoline, and it's still a gallon of gasoline, but there's different octanes, or look at something like alcohol. You can buy a 3.2% beer, a 5% beer, a 9% beer, and it's all 12 ounces.
Right.
One have a greater effect than the other, I promise. So, and one must be careful with that. But it's the same idea. So my 500 milligrams has a high profile of naturally occurring CBD. I'm not spiking it with an isolate or a distillate, which is kind of a step below isolate as far as the amount of processing it's exposed to.
Okay.
It's distilled. It's more like a tree sap, a hard, sticky tree sap instead of a Vaseline, which is the full spectrum gold grade hemp extract that I utilize is like a Vaseline when you touch it, and it'll melt in your hand.
I see.
A broad spectrum is like tree sap that you have to expose to high heat to get it to finally melt.
Okay.
And isolate is a water-soluble white powder. So those are kind of the 3 different areas of types of CBD, we'll say. And I hope I've made it clear why the full spectrum is so much more effective. It's called the entourage effect. Also, that's another thing you'll see as you study CBD is the entourage effect, and that refers to the sum of all parts being greater than the whole. Okay. So you have these individuals that if you isolate them and then put them back together as you see fit, it's much different in terms of how they interact with one another than if you utilized all those parts as they naturally occur, and they work together. It's the idea that 2 men can do the work of 3. There's a synergistic effect. 2 people can do the work of 3 using synergy. And that's what occurs in a full spectrum blend of hemp extract. And so, yeah, that's really an important thing to understand when it comes to efficacy and bioavailability.
Awesome. So
that was kind of an
yeah, that was that was a lot to unpack. So, so if I'm in the grocery store, likely if I see something that includes hemp, whether it's a lotion, whether it's then, then that's really more than likely the hemp seed, and the oil that you're talking about is coming from the plant itself, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
That's
And
right.
then, so the seed doesn't have the properties that most people are looking for when they're looking for the effects that they are anticipating receiving from a CBD oil.
That's right.
How about you had brought up, you talked a little bit about the THC. I'd love to have you kind of go into that a little bit deeper, because I think there's a general fear around using CBD products that, oh my gosh, I have to drug test at work. Am I going to have I think people recognize, hey, there's probably value here, but am I going to end up popping a false positive on a drug test because I have THC in my system? And I think you touched a little bit on that, but kind of explain to somebody who's never been exposed, what are they looking for when they're saying, okay, is this one going to impact me in a negative way versus is, just purely being able to support and help my health?
Right. Yeah. Well, it's tough to know, but ultimately it comes down to test results, which our test results are published on our website, where a third party will analyze our products and they'll tell us how much of each of these constituents are present. And as long as that THC is below that 0.3%, it's federally considered hemp, which is fine. Ours is far below that, but still present in minute quantities, again, for that entourage effect. But it's nowhere near enough to tip the scales for a UA.
Okay.
In my 7 years of being in this industry, selling a high CBD profile product, full spectrum, so there is the presence, and there's an opportunity for the presence of THC there, but not near enough to do anything psychoactively, and let alone residuals in the cells that we test as a positive. And at this point, nobody's testing for CBD in the
right.
blood or whatever. Right. That's not an issue. It's not a federally controlled substance like THC. So you can rest assured that you will not fail a UA if you are subject to that. CBD will go to work and do its thing, and THC is just it's almost not even present, but it is there in a small amount. Yeah.
Now, there was one thing that I had read on your website, which absolutely fascinated me, because I had no idea, and I know I'm going to say it all wrong or not quite, but the website indicated, and when you and I first spoke, that our body actually has these receptors. I can't remember if you called them CBD, but they're actually meant to receive CBD to enhance our body. Did I get that right? Is that kind of like the basic gist? Can you?
That is right. That is the basic gist of it. Yes. Our bodies are built with what's called the endocannabinoid system. So that word is built right into it. Cannabinoid, CBD, which is what CBD stands for. I guess I should have said that earlier. Cannabinoid or cannabidiol. Cannabinoids are the individual it's like CBN, CBG. Cannabidiol is CBD. So that's what we're talking about when we say CBD. So our bodies have the endocannabinoid system, and it is the governor of the central nervous system, and it responds to this as a unique food. And our bodies do make a small amount of it. If you were breastfed as a child, you received adequate doses of CBD to help build the proteins and just cause the cells to develop properly. It's found in lichen, it's found in hops, but in smaller amounts. It's really found in concentration in hemp and in cannabis, but in cannabis in much smaller amounts. It's the reverse with the THC. Cannabis is going to have a lot of THC and very little CBD. And they can breed it to have more CBD as well.
Right.
But it's the opposite of hemp that's going to have high CBD and very low THC.
I see.
So it's found in both, but more in the hemp. And so, yeah, its job is to govern the central nervous system, and it does that because it's able to speak to the cells. It's feeding the cells on a cellular level. You're giving nutrition to the body, and when the cells get the right message about who they are and what their duty in life is, what their job is, they go about it efficiently. And the opposite of that is when we have cells that are confused about life and who they are, and they're running into each other and they're yelling at each other. There's arguments, and we have problems. Oh, no, I got a tumor. Well, that's cells that are miscommunicating.
I see.
We need to help those cells to talk clearly, talk the same language and speak clearly, and be nourished, as individual cells. Because if a healthy cell is present, it's going to want to do its job. And that's the idea, is feed these cells something it's clear that they respond to, and help those cells do their job. Here's one of the ways it's clear, just from a layman's perspective. My hair grows faster. My fingernails grow faster. Wounds heal faster because of the CBD that's being bolstered in my body. And that's just a simple thing, but it's evidence of cellular activity. So this is helping to speed up the growth of cells and support that cellular life. And that's why everybody benefits, because everybody has cells, and whether you have a condition or not, or whether you're trying to treat something or not, your body's made of cells and they need nourishment. And this is one of the unique foods that actually provides cellular nourishment. So it's pretty magnificent, really.
Yeah, that was one of those things that, wow, I didn't know that. And that really intrigued me and sparked calling and saying, hey, okay, where do I start? What do I take? And all of those things. And I'm sure the listeners have a lot of those questions too. So we're going to go on a quick break, but I'm actually absolutely going to make sure that our listeners have the opportunity to check out some of that research right there on your website. So if you go to orozonaoils.com, that's OROZONA oils, OILS.com. Read up on all of it's fascinating, every single product. And I mean, you have some different oil blends that really had intrigued me. So read up on that. And if you want to give it a try, there is a discount code, Cheap Mama Life, that you can use for a short period of time to get a discount on your order. So make sure that you visit that. We're going to take a quick break, and I'm going to be back in a few minutes with Caleb, and we're going to talk about, dive a little bit deeper into maybe some of those different mixtures and what benefits each of those can have, and where somebody should start. Because I know that was my confusion. I mean, you shared with us earlier the 500 milligrams. I'm like, okay, I've never used it. I have this going on. I have this going on. And, where should I start? So I'd love to maybe help clear that out from some of the people that have been hesitant, kind of stepping back from even giving CBD oils a try, despite hearing all of the good positives out there about it. So come back in a few minutes and talk about all of that. Okay.
Sounds great. Thank you.
All right.
Hey, I just want to tell you guys real quickly, after talking with Dr. Kendall Williams about his brand new book, Visions, Values, and Corporate Hypocrisy, I'm very convinced that this book can help just about any executive, any corporate employee who's looking to just level up their game. As someone who was a failed leader themselves, managing it over a team, I can tell you one thing, that for sure you can just hear the arguments that Dr. Williams make loud and clear about how leaders fail to align their actions with company values that results in just these disastrous consequences in the business, amongst the employees, and amongst the consumers. It's pure hypocrisy that we see in the corporate world. And this is why, the book your visions, values, and corporate hypocrisy is going to be one that you want to pick up and start reading more about. Dr. Williams has got all the right stuff for you in this book. Check it out. It's available on Amazon right now. I got the link somewhere at the bottom to the left or the right, or however you're listening or watching right now. And leave them a review. Tell them how you really feel after you have read it once through.
Go. All right. Welcome back to the show. You are listening to the Cheap Mama Life. I'm Brenda Kilhoffer, your Cheap Mama, and we are on here today with Caleb Wright, Orozona Oils. We've been talking about all of the qualities that CBD versus hemp oil, the THC, all of those things that are very confusing. I wanted to dive in the second segment to some of the uses and some of the health issues that people choose to use them from. Of course, this is a natural occurring product, which means it's not FDA approved for any health benefits whatsoever. Similar. So those of you mamas out there that are using essential oils, that are using, health, diet, nutrition, all of those things to govern health in your family, you are probably seeking out products like this. And you well know by now that we cannot make any health claims whatsoever when it comes to these natural occurring products. Anyway, when I first reached out to you, Caleb, my biggest issues, one, were psoriasis. I've had psoriasis since I was 15 years old, dealing with some chronic pain, some of it mostly injuries from falling off of my horse. And I think, I've hit that magical age of 50 where those things don't heal as quick. And of course, I think psoriasis brings along, a level of arthritis too. Inflammation and arthritis tend to go side by side with psoriasis. So those are some of the different things I'm feeling in my hands. And I've had migraines cropping up as gastrointestinal issues, all of those things that I think as us women hit middle age start to, and men too, I'm sure have different issues. Of course, the other thing for me that was super important that I talked to you about, and one of the things that attracted me was the different carrier oils that you have that go side by side with the CBD oil. You're using cranberry and black cumin seed and coconut MCT oil. And the most recent injuries that I've had were traumatic head injuries. Not that I got knocked out, but there's certainly things I don't remember. There have been difficulty recalling words, recalling names, things like that, that I have always been somebody with really, I could tell you things that happened when I was 2 years old and people are like, what, how do you remember it in that kind of detail? And that was something that I lost in these last couple incidents. So those were all of the issues that I know I came to you with. And I said, all right, I see that this oil helps with this, and this oil helps with this, and this oil helps with this. What do I do as a first time user? And what, you've got what a 100, a 200, a 500, 1,000, 2,000 different milligrams. What does a brand new person do?
Yeah.
So talk to us in in code or however it has to reach the listeners that we're FDA compliant, and we're also truly explaining the benefits that people might experience with the different oils.
That's right. Yeah. Well, understanding that cells are being fed with this substance, and so anything that results from that is a side effect, in my view. Okay, so I like to refer to inflammation as reduced inflammation as a side effect of consuming CBD. Reduced anxiety is a side effect of consuming CBD consistently in the right amount for your body type and your condition, which are key in understanding how much an individual needs to be taking. But just to kind of start where you started, I've seen a lot of people in my 7 years in this industry find the remedy they were searching for and really come into that place of recovery. And it is a special thing to experience, whether it's an animal or a person, really to find that relief they've been looking for. It's really, it tickles me. I like it. And that's why I'm in this, as I found something that works. It's able to support me and my family, and I'm getting to change lives for the better. That's pretty
and cool. I think that's one thing you just mentioned that I don't think we've mentioned before that also attracted me to reaching out to you, is you brought up animals. You also have formulations for our furry little friends. You've got it for the, our pets and horses, so the dogs and the horses were a big draw to me as well, because we have those. So anyway,
we have a long history of helping dogs. And not so much horses, but a history helping horses as well. A lot more dog owners than horse owners, of course. But some of the people and animals who continue to come back to me and purchase are folks who have cancer and tumors, folks who have epilepsy, chronic pain, Hashimoto's, neuropathy, other autoimmune disorders, diabetes, arthritis, gastrointestinal issues mentioned, folks with migraines, just to name a few of these are the people who are continually buying from me for some reason. Not to keep testing it. So then we look at, well, if I'm fall into one of those categories of folks, which one do I take? How much do I take? And that's where I've got some variety in the industry. About the most variety I was experiencing was, do you want your CBD isolate in a lollipop or in soda pop or in a brownie? That's not the kind of options we needed to be looking at when we were speaking to health and wellness. So my perspective was, let's identify some delivery oils that we can mix this CBD with that will provide ancillary benefits that are awesome all by themselves, and that you could benefit from just by taking those individual oils. But let's mix it with something that we know is super special, our hemp extract, and make something that's really dynamic, and so that's what we've done. We've formulated 2 ingredient blends. So each of the products I'll describe are only 2 ingredients, emulsified at low heat, away from radiation. We're not microwaving this stuff. It really is. We're conscious about each step of the way. Our coconut MCT is probably the most popular. And it's got the least amount of, flavor, if you will. But it has some dynamic benefits by itself, like coconuts or your MCT oil is antiviral, it's antifungal, it's antibacterial, and it does cross the blood-brain barrier. So it's very efficient and effective at getting that CBD up in the brain, which is what we want to do. One of the things that we found that CBD does is promote neuroelasticity.
Mhm.
So that means neural brain waves can shift more easily. We can get out of like pain signals, for instance, which are neural pathways that get cut like ruts in the road.
Mhm.
And when you're promoting neuroplasticity, that means that those brain waves have the support to be able to change and leave that rut. So the coconut oil is very effective at getting it up into the brain. Our coconut oil is also very unique in that it's coming off of a third generation family farm in the Philippines. I know the owners of the company personally, and they have very high standards for their products. Um, they have helped us establish what it means to be an organic coconut leaving the Philippines. Their company, their family has helped identify by keeping the standard high is really they've been a part of that is what I'm trying to drive at here. So it's not just your standard MCT oil that you'd find at the grocery store. This is really special stuff. High in caprylic acid, high in capric acid, which is going to allow for a very rapid uptake in the body and almost an energizing effect. And we also have lauric acid in that coconut oil, which is responsible for longevity and keeping it stored on a cellular level for longer. So it's a very excellent coconut oil. Our cranberry seed oil also, all these oils, I should just say, are organic, non-GMO, the best of the best. But cranberry seed in general, high in antioxidants, high in vitamin E and A. It's great for things like urinary tract support. It's good for things like bone health. And so, yeah, I've got information on the website where people can look at these different ancillary benefits and go, oh, geez, I really resonate with this. I've got some bone issues. Maybe the cranberry seed would be helpful as well as that CBD, because the CBD is going to be working on a cellular level. If you have bone issues, it's going to be on the cellular level working on those bones. And the cranberry seed is also going to be doing that. So you get kind of this double whammy effect. And black cumin seed, famous for an antiviral. It's great for heart support. It's an immune system builder. It's great for brain health. It's a neuroprotectant. It's great for respiratory health. It's anti-inflammatory, like CBD is also. So it's another double whammy of getting two really powerful qualities in one oil. It's been said of black cumin seed oil that it cures every disease but death. And so really, anytime I feel sick, I'll take black cumin seed oil. And of course, now I take it in my CBD, but even before I was doing this, I would have like an essential oil of black cumin and consume some of that. And it really does. It helps build that immune system. It's an antiviral. It's going to go to work for you.
Oh, I think I shared that with you while we were offline, is that, I had a sample of the black cumin that you had sent, and I gave it a try when I started feeling, a little sick last week. And I woke up the next day feeling it did not get, I'm not gonna say I was overnight cured, but I do feel like after watching my older two teens suffer from what they likely gave me, I didn't feel it near I was still out feeding the horses. They weren't getting out of bed. And and they're a lot younger than me. Usually they handle that kind of stuff a little better than, I do.
Awesome.
So
that's great. Yeah. Well, it really is. All of these delivery oils are really remarkable by themselves. And like I said, you'd do good just to take them by themselves daily, if you have one of these conditions we're talking about. But they blend really well with the hemp extract. We're not trying to alter the flavor. Understand that these oil selections are not about trying to cover up the flavor of hemp extract. Hemp extract is a very strong flavor. It'll burn the back of your throat. If you take it raw, it's strong, it's bitter, and it's powerful. So we're not trying to hide that. The reason we mix it with another oil is because it is so globby and kind of big. It needs to be broken up into smaller pieces so it can be absorbed. We do require some type of a delivery oil. for CBD to be absorbed. So we've just managed to select some that we feel are really royal oils, we like to call them.
Yeah.
And so from there, to kind of further talk about your questions is, how does one know about how much to take? And that's going to be different for everyone. And on my website, I do have a dosing guide that really approaches dosing based on the weight of the individual or the severity of the condition. So for most people, we start with weight, and it is a formula of 1 to 2 milligrams per 10 pounds, 1 to 2 times daily. And so what that or translates to is different per bottle, because I have 250 milligrams, 500 milligrams, 1,000 milligrams, 2,000 milligrams. So in each of those bottles, we're going to have a different amount of active ingredient delivered, and essentially doubled each time. So using that formula, and me as an example, I'm about 150 pounds. So I'm going to want anywhere from 15 to 30 milligrams daily. And on the chart, it'll show you that our 500 milligram bottle, and you'll see on the back too, what is the bottle, it'll tell you how many milligrams per milliliter or per serving. It's a 1 milliliter serving. The 500 milligrams has 15 to 16.
Okay.
So I would do 1 to 2 droppers a day based on weight, and that would be a good daily amount to start with. Now I may be struggling with something that's really giving me trouble, and so now we're going to look at condition, severity of condition. I'm going to forget about my weight.
Right.
And we're going to try to get enough CBD to really turn the corner. For instance, we worked with a young child who had a severe condition. Epilepsy was one of the manifestations of this condition. And again, this is from birth, so a very small child. We're talking, 10 pounds, 30 pounds. I mean, as she grew, she's still alive today, and they said she wouldn't be, which is cool. But anyway, we're talking a very small person. And she was taking, at one point, 7,000 milligrams every 4 days.
Wow.
So that's an extreme amount of CBD. But we were looking at managing the seizure activity, and we were effectively able to manage it at those levels. Now, one goes, oh my gosh, isn't there opportunity for toxicity at those high levels? No, CBD has been shown to be zero toxicity. So there's no fear of overdosing as you're experimenting on, with how much to take. You take as much as you feel you need, and you don't want to waste it. So you take as much as you need, and take no less than what you need, because you're taking it for a reason, right? It's like I'm working with a former Hollywood movie star and stuntman who's now 84 years old and has been plagued with chronic pain for the last 40 years from injuries due to his work. And he's been on everything from Dilaudid to hydrocodone. He's had a third of his spine replaced with titanium.
Wow.
Every type of alternative method or modalities you can imagine to try to control this pain. And our CBD is the one thing he says that has changed his life.
Wow.
And we've been able to get him off when I met him, he was doing 6 to 8 boluses of Dilaudid a day, directly into his spine. At this point, he does maybe 2. He was doing, on top of that, 8 hydrocodone a day, just to try to manage the pain. And of course, he was knocked out. And we've got him down to, I think we're at 2 or 3 hydrocodone now. So significant reductions in these pharmaceuticals that are causing him trouble and other problems. Lethargy just being, a minor problem, right? When it comes to the ability of pharmaceuticals to wreak havoc on the body when you're taking them constantly. That's just a fantastic story of somebody who's been relieved of chronic pain just by taking high doses of CBD. He is on our 5,000, and we label that for either equine use with a nice horseshoe or human consumption. Our human consumption bottles have the hand on them.
Right.
So it's
And
the
of
same
course,
material.
It's the same. Just a different concentration, right? I mean, if I could go get the 1,000 or I could get the 500 on the website at one price and take 2 droppers every single time, or I can step up into the 1,000 if the 1 dropper wasn't or step up into the 1,000 and just do 1 dropper.
Precisely.
Right? So,
yep. Or if you really need to kick something in the teeth, like my friend Chris does,
yeah.
you just go straight for the top and use the 5,000.
Yeah.
And, in all honesty and fairness, he uses, I think he's doing 5 milliliters a day, so 5 servings a day of the 5,000.
Wow.
So it's a high amount of CBD, but it's working.
Right.
His wife is thrilled because she feels like he's got his life back, where he had been, passed out in a lazy boy all day, every day, and grumpy when he wasn't. No, he's good to be around and happy and feeling optimistic about life again. It's
and
funny
of course,
also
that's
with
why
that
the
story of
oh, go ahead. I was going to say that,
No,
of
go
course,
for it.
that's why the 5,000 is recommended for the horses as well, just simply because they weigh so much more, right? That's the body
Precisely.
weight.
Exactly. Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah. I was going to say it was kind of funny with my friend Chris watching his transformation. He would call me every couple of days and ask me questions. He'd say, is it possible that this could be helping with the arthritis? And I'd say, well, it's going to be helping to reduce inflammation. So absolutely. He said, fantastic. That's great because my hands move again, Okay, cool. He calls me a few days later. Is it possible this could be helping my eyesight? Because I swear things aren't as blurry. No, I'm not going to say it won't, but we are feeding your cells. So if that's an area of weakness cellularly, then they're going to be bolstered and you may notice a difference. And literally every few days he would call me with something else that was a positive side effect of consuming CBD.
And I think, and you may know if this is a true story or not, but I had a friend who had suggested CBD or had gotten involved in a company that sold CBD. She was selling it, and she had shared with me that hemp actually became a crop that wasn't allowed any longer because it was replacing paper, or it had the ability to replace the paper because it grows so much faster than trees. And of course, the billionaires in charge of paper production were leading lawmakers, or were, lobby. You just look at the lobbyists and things like that. And it was like, well, no, you're going to put us out of business. So now we can't have that. And, as a result, we've lost out on all of these other benefits.
Yeah. Well,
So I don't know
the
if
old
that,
saying, all the money, right?
right.
And that is precisely correct. And it wasn't just limited to paper production, though. I mean, we're talking textiles. I mean, we could replace cotton with hemp. We're talking fuel. We could replace gasoline with biofuel. We could be growing, the fuel that we put in our vehicles. We could be making composites to build vehicles and aircraft out of hemp panels.
And housing even, right? And it grows faster, so it's not as, because my understanding is it's like a bit like it grows significantly faster, so it doesn't take the toll on the environment.
That's right.
Per se that growing and chopping down trees does. That's
correct. Yeah, that's correct. And you can get a couple of crops a year, in some places. And wow. So yeah, that's a big threat to all of those industries, let alone the so-called health industry, Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, and we certainly don't want to have this information not get out to the people, because I certainly have my own opinions on all of that as do you. But I definitely I just wanted to really clear up and help. The conversation you and I had was phenomenal, and really opened my eyes to understanding the benefits of CBD a little bit more. And I jumped right in and tried it, and wanted to make sure that the listeners that maybe, are dealing with different health issues at home, even if it's just, to your point, the antiviral in the coconut and the cumin, if they just get that out of it and they go find that, we definitely want to be boosting our immune systems right now, especially, now there's another variant that is fast spreading, maybe not as life threatening and severe as the others, but super fast spreading. So, that's been something that I've been focused on long before the pandemic, but really making sure and constantly telling the kids, take these, boost the immune system.
Yeah.
They're the ones going out into the schools every day and bringing more stuff home. So anyway, thank you so much for being here. Is there anything that we didn't hit on that you think it's important that folks know about CBD?
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm sure there is. I mean, it's a pretty broad subject. There's a lot going on in this world of hemp and CBD. I would just encourage your listeners to go to the website, orozonaoils.com, and read up and learn. Try some products and see what you think. Develop your personal testimony, because that's really what it comes down to is, an individual going, yes, this worked for me, and I hope I've outlined several reasons why our products are more likely to work for you than the products you'd find at the convenience store.
Right.
And if not, reach out. We value customer service. And so any questions that your viewers have, certainly reach out. There's contact information on our website. We're happy to answer any questions that they have, personal, or concerns, personal concerns. Because it's an individual journey for everyone. And we take time with our customers. And that's one of the things that sets us apart also is, we value the individuals, and we want to help individuals to turn the corner, because if they are turning the corner, they're going to remain customers.
Absolutely.
This isn't just a one-shot wonder. That's what you get when you buy stuff from Circle K. They've got the big contract, and one sale is going to carry them for a long time. We're a small company. We value the individual sales. They come from individual people. So,
and I would imagine a lot of the oils and stuff that you're finding at the dispensaries are coming from cannabis. They're not necessarily going to be the hemp product, because they're dealing in cannabis at the dispensaries and things. And I know people are getting it there. But then that brings in some of the other, now I know probably less CBD, but more of the euphoria and the high and the different things that come from having that. And you do have a balm as well for like pain and.
Yeah, that's right. We hadn't talked about that. It's a cacao based. Here it is. Here it's a roll-on style applicator where you can twist it up. But it is a balm that is intended for topical use. It's great for things like muscle pain, skin conditions, dry skin, psoriasis, cuts. I hurt my finger the other day and cut it pretty good, and I would keep it packed full of that CBD salve, and it speeds up the recovery. And it's antibacterial and antimicrobial, so it's going to keep it clean.
Yeah, awesome.
Ours is a cacao base, so it smells like chocolate. And we've got some cranberry seed oil in there, which is really great for the skin. And what else? There's some shea butter in there and some coconut oil as well. It's really a fantastic topical that you don't need to dip your fingers in to apply it, being in the applicator. It's a great product as well.
And I just ordered that as well. So
great.
I will definitely make sure you get feedback on that as well. So anyway, thank you, Caleb, for being here today. Again, everybody get to the website, orozonaoils.com. Research. There's so much research just there on the website alone. So if we missed anything today, they will certainly you'll get your answers there. And Caleb gave all my listeners an opportunity to save a little bit on that. And so there's a discount code, Cheap Mama Life, easy enough to remember. So when you check out, you just type in that discount code and you will get a 10% discount on your order. So make sure that you take advantage of that. Thank you for being here. And I hope you'll come back again sometime.
Well, I'd love to. I'm just honored for the opportunity and grateful for the opportunity to chat with you and to get this information to your listeners. Thank you so much. And
awesome.
Have a blessed 22, you and all of your listeners.
Absolutely. Here we go. 2022.
Right.